Peter. Just thought I'd check on you. Oh my God! Government came and took my...
Fatalis.
They took her.
Fatalis.
They took her.
Fatalis.
Have you ever seen a god and you just think, surely there's never been anyone more broken than this god? Surely Harris hasn't fucked up worse than this. What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're looking at 5 reworked gods from Smite's history, looking at their old abilities, their playstyles and how they were used. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So by the time this video goes live, I'll be at 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Coming in at number 1, of course it's Loki. Were you really expecting anyone other than this cunt? What's up guys, welcome back to the channel for another guide video. Today we're going to be diving head on into the Conquest mode with a complete guide to starting off in Conquest.
Ai, limão!
Alright, so I just want to start by saying a massive thank you to every single one of you who've either watched any of my videos, left a like, dropped a comment, and most importantly, the ones who've subscribed. Whether you've been a sub since 100 or you just subbed today, you're the reason I'm even recording this video right now, so a huge thank you to all of you. So by the time this goes up on the channel, we'll be at 20k subscribers. Alright, so of course, as soon as I release an episode of this series for the Season 6 meta, Titan come out with a patch hitting like, what, 6 of the top gods in the meta? Something like that? Well, today we're going to be updating the list again. So, Himdala, Heimdilla, Mimedula, Mr. Mime Dealer?
It's Heimdallir, you whore.
50,000 subscribers. I can't really even put into words how crazy the last few weeks have been in terms of channel growth. A lot of people will say they never expected to get this far and all that, and that's definitely true if you take my thoughts when I first started. But once I really got rolling on the channel, of course I expected to hit 50k at some point. Thing is, I set myself a goal to hit that milestone by the end of 2020, and you guys have blown that goal so far out of the water that it's chilling in the upper atmosphere right now. At the start of this year, I was on around 32,000 subs, and with the growth I was getting on average, I was just about on track to reach 50,000 by the end of the year. We're now 4 months into this year and on track to hit 100,000 before the end of the year, if the growth keeps on as it is going right now. That's absolutely insane, and I hope I can continue to entertain you through this tough time and beyond. I started this channel just to test the waters and make some funny montages to show to my friends and test my editing skills. I think that's how a lot of YouTubers start out. No one really starts YouTube expecting to grow big. If you start with those kind of intentions, it's probably bad motivations anyway. For me, it was just for fun, and over the 4 years that I've been on YouTube, it's slowly developed into a huge part of my life that's both a creative outlet and a hobby, but also a way to support myself while I study at university. It took me over a year to hit 100 subscribers in 2017, then in the following years I hit 5,000 in 2018, 20,000 in 2019, and now we're here with 50,000 in 2020. It's been a long road and hopefully it stays even longer. I'll be here to make memes and guides for you all as long as you'll have me. But enough of that, let's get into answering some of your questions. So these questions are a combination of some from my YouTube community posts and also some from my Discord. Which, by the way, if you're not in the Discord already, it's a really awesome community. We have over 1,000 people in there now, and it's really cool to just like hang out. You can talk to me as well, you can find people to play with, all that kind of stuff, so definitely join the Discord if you aren't already. I'll drop a link to that down below. But this first question comes from Arion Amzai. He asks, if you could bring any god or legend into the game, which one would it be and what abilities would your god have? So I'm no designer and I should probably leave that stuff to the experts, but in terms of what gods I would like to see in the game, this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I'd like to see some more from the Arthurian lore and stuff like that. I'd like to see Morgana or Mordred specifically added to the game. I know Mordred already has like a skin in the form of the Achilles skin, but I think it'd be really cool to see Mordred in the game and obviously Morgana as well. Sundering Loki asks, why don't you main Loki? Are you so sure I don't main Loki? My worshipper list might say otherwise. Gloomy Waters asks, why have I turned gay after watching your videos? Kuzumbo looking hella fresh right now. Yeah, the Cabin King tends to have that effect on people, I don't blame you. Garrett Harter asks, when did you start playing Smite and what has been your favourite season? So I started playing Smite in early 2014, around the time of Geb and Nemesis releases. In terms of my favourite season overall, I've made a video on my favourite seasons actually, but overall I have to say Season 2 was my favourite. My two favourite gods of all time, Bologna and Amaterasu, were both released in Season 2, and in general it was a really strong meta for solo laners, which is my preferred role. Isaac Clark asks, number 1, who do you consider to be the most overall balanced character in the game? I think in terms of overall balance, in terms of like the whole history of Smite, how balanced they've been in general, it's probably Agni. He's sort of considered the focal point of balance by a lot of people in that he's rarely like below the point of balance, and he's only been significantly above the point of balance like a little bit in the history of Smite. In general, he's been very balanced. And number 2, if you could have one god removed from every class, which would those be? So Arachne would definitely be the assassin that I wanted removed, there's no question about that. In terms of mages, probably Nox. I really don't like Nox. I wouldn't necessarily want her removed necessarily, but I definitely want her reworked. But if I did have to remove a god from every class, Nox would probably be the mage. Hunters, I kind of want to say Heimdallr right now because obviously he's really absolutely broken and not very fun, but I think if they nerfed him, I wouldn't mind him too much. In terms of Hunters, probably Chernobog or Izanami. I really just don't like them in general and I wouldn't miss them. For warriors, definitely Nike. She's my least favourite warrior by far. I really just don't like the way her kit works. And then in terms of Guardians, there's actually not many Guardians that I don't like. I'm trying to think of some that I really wouldn't want to be in the game, but I kind of like a lot of the Guardians. If I had to say one, probably Kuzumbo. Like, as much as I meme on Kuzumbo and he's literally my YouTube profile picture, I don't like the actual design of the god at all. I don't think he's very fun, so probably Kuzumbo if I had to remove a Guardian. Bad Andy asks, when can we see you in the SPL? When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, my friend. I'm not even close to good enough for the SPL. Lazy Boxcat asks, when are you going to start some beef? So I assume you mean YouTube beef with this one. I'm not one to start beef. I tend to just like keep to my own thing. I'm not going to really just go after people for no reason. Technically kind of had some YouTube beef in the past. I called Duke Sloth Duke Thought in one of my videos and he got really angry at me and asked me to cut it out of the video. If you count that as beef, then I guess I've started some beef, but yeah. No plans to really start beef with people in the future. That doesn't really help anyone. Sky Army Stinger Squad asks, what games do you like to play besides Smite? So I play a lot of Hearthstone, that's probably my game that I have like the most hours in outside of Smite. I've also played a lot of Overwatch in the past when that released back in like 2016 and 2017, but I haven't played that like recently at all. I think 2017 was probably when I last played Overwatch. And in general, I like RPG games like Skyrim, the whole Fallout series aside from Fallout 76 because that was a meme. Divinity Original Sin 2 is probably my favourite RPG game of all time, arguably one of my favourite games of all time in general. And I of course really like playing all the Pokemon games as well. Also, if you could change one item in Smite, what would it be, how, and why? So I'm not exactly sure how I would change it, but I definitely want to change Stone of Fire. I think its overall design is just really counterintuitive and pointless. Like, I don't see why a defense item has a passive that makes you reduce, like, big damage bursts, because if you're building defense, you're getting hit by less big damage bursts anyway. So it doesn't really make sense as an item. I'd like to see it reworked. And yes, I do remember you from the first Q&A video. You've been here since, like, probably about 1,000 subscribers, I think, so thank you for sticking around the whole time. Dabuma57 asks, what is your favourite god for every role, or gods if you can't decide definitively? So my favourite god for solo, it's either Amaterasu or Bologna. As I mentioned before, they're two of my favourite gods like of all time. If I had to pick between them, definitely Bologna, but they're both insanely fun for me. My favourite god for mid is definitely Ulla, there's no contention, he's so much fun. You don't often get to play physical mid laners because of how Conquest team comps are structured, you have to get like a magical ADC or jungler to be able to play it, but when I can play Ulla mid, it's so much fun. For junglers, I'd say it's either Thor or Ratatoska. They actually play fairly similar playstyles and I really just like their ultimates, like that kind of global mobility. It allows for some really cool ganks and outplays and things. If I had to choose between them once again, like I did with Bologna and Amaterasu, I'd probably pick Thor. My favourite support, it'd be between Geb or Athena. Both are just really awesome, like fundamental supports that are just great for helping out their team. If I had to choose, probably Geb. I just love Geb's shield so much. And then in terms of ADC picks, if I'm allowed to break the mold a bit here and pick Ulla for both mid and ADC, I'd probably pick Ulla because he's definitely my favourite hunter. But if I had to pick someone separate for ADC and mid, I'd probably go with Jablanka for my favourite ADC. It's probably my second favourite hunter. Tuckerbird asks, how long have you been doing this YouTube thing and are you happy with your progress? 50k is a lot. So I talked about this a bit in the beginning, like in a bit more detail, but I've been doing YouTube since early 2016. Around March was I think when I started my channel, and I didn't really get any kind of real growth until like sort of early 2018 when I like kind of hit around 5,000 subscribers and started really progressing. And am I happy with my progress? Definitely. Especially lately, there's been so much growth on the channel, and if it continues like this, I couldn't be happier. Like I said in the beginning, I never expected to get this far when I initially started, and it's just been absolutely insane. iRule13 asks, out of everyone, who is your favourite Smite YouTuber and why? So with playing the game a lot and also creating my own content for the game, a lot of my life kind of revolves around Smite, so I don't actually watch too much Smite YouTube content. But if I ever do watch any, it's mostly Thebe or FinoK, like Thebe for the meme side and FinoK for the more serious side. I also used to watch a lot of Mythimu back in the day when he made exclusively Smite content, but he's kind of moved away from that a bit now and I don't watch him as much. Luca the God asks, me and my friends are pretty new to Smite, when should we try Ranked out? I would recommend trying out Ranked when you're familiar and comfortable in all of the roles. So, you know, be that Joust or Conquest, obviously Duel is just whenever you feel like you can get into like decent 1v1s. With Duel, it's like play Duel whenever you want because you're not affecting your teammates. You can just like grind up as you feel like you can grind up. But in terms of Joust and Conquest, I'd recommend learning all of the roles properly before you hop into Ranked, and also have a couple of roles that like you're really good with that you queue for. Because obviously the queue system has like 2 roles that you can primary queue for, so have 2 roles you're really good at, but then also have a decent basis in all the rest of the roles. Don't be that one guy who queues into Ranked and says I can't play support for my life or I'll feed if someone take it off me, because no one wants that guy on their team. SS Ghost Leviathan asks, would you say that some items take more skill than others? So yeah, I think this is just a pretty obvious point, right? Like some of the items that have like really complex passives that require you to like play in a certain way are obviously going to be more skillful than items like Breastplate of Valor, for instance, where it's just, hey, have some stats kind of thing. The Morrigan asks, other than Conquest, what is your favourite / most played game mode? So favourite and most played are actually 2 different things, because my most played game mode after Conquest I think is still Arena, because I played a crap load of Arena back in 2014 and 2015, but I really haven't played any serious Arena since then. But in terms of my favourite game mode after Conquest, it would probably be a tie between Assault and Siege. I really like both of those game modes. It's just really sad that Siege doesn't really get any players right now, and it's hard to find an actually competitive game. I think if there was more players in Siege and it was more competitive, I'd prefer it to Assault, but I think they're at a tie right now. Sappy Leaf asks, will you ever upload a video without commentary? So I feel like my commentary on things is what a lot of people come to the channel for, so I tend to have commentary in like a vast majority of my videos, but I have uploaded some videos in the past that don't have commentary. They've mostly been like meme edits, like my classic King Arthur video or the Baba Yaga video that I did recently. There's also a video way back on my channel from in like 2017 or 2018 when Artio was initially released. It's just called Smite Artio is Balance. That video has no commentary either. Robert Stevens asks, what sort of music do you like? So I'm big into power metal. I like bands like Avantasia, Masterplan, Yawn's Projects, a little bit of Blind Guardian or Halloween, some Unisonic, all that kind of stuff. And I do like a little bit more sort of classic rock as well, like Aerosmith and Europe and bands like that. Tiger Catface asks, do you believe that recently ranks mean nothing and anyone can get into Diamond? So the statement anyone can get into Diamond is like a big overstatement, but in general I think the sentiment is pretty right. Like the ranked system is really easy to climb and not anyone can get into Diamond, but anyone with decent skill can get into like Plat or low Diamond. Honestly, it's more so of just luck because of how fast you can climb. If you get a lucky win streak of like 6 games, you can promote like 3 divisions or more. So sometimes people can get into Diamond when really they don't belong in Diamond and they kind of just got carried on a lucky win streak. And you could also get people who just got really unlucky or like played badly for a few games and you can demote quite quickly as well. I think anyone who's played like over sort of 50 to 100 games in a split and has solidified their rank, they deserve it. But anyone who's just played like 15 games or something, the variance is too high and you can't really say you deserve the rank at that point. Andrew Peak asks, which country are you from? So I'm from England. I get a lot of questions about my accent actually. People seem to think I'm from America. Like I get a lot of people that meet me in game and say, wait, you're EU? I thought you were from NA. So for some reason people think I'm American. Maybe it's just because I speak good English, but of course I speak good English because I'm from England. Kid Fury asks, do you have games on your phone? So I'm not really big into mobile games. The only like real mobile games I have on my phone are Pokemon Go and also emulators like DS and Game Boy emulators to play old DS and Game Boy games. Aaron asks, Poggers, also did you ever think, yo, this whale is going Poggers? If not, please off yourself. Yes. Asperger King asks, which pantheon is your favourite and why? So I think overall Roman mythology is probably my favourite to like explore and dive into, and also Bellona, my favourite god, is Roman, so I'd probably have to go with the Roman pantheon. Captain Sexy asks, what does Smite offer that other MOBAs don't? Great profile picture, by the way, and I think Smite is just more fun for me. It offers like the third person perspective and the mythology basis, which are two of the big things that kind of drove me towards the game in the first place and made me really enjoy it. Like seeing gods that I'd learned about in the past and things like being represented in Smite is really cool, and the third person perspective just makes the game a lot more approachable, I think, than a top down perspective, since a lot of other games I've played before have been in third person, so it just makes it a bit more approachable for me. And also, Smite has Hindu Man. No other MOBA has Hindu Man. Springy Zone asks, what is your favourite god in Smite? So I've actually incidentally answered this one a lot of times before. Bellona is my favourite god, probably followed up by Amaterasu and then King Arthur. Wooly115 asks, your first god rank 10? So my first rank 10 god was actually Artemis. As I mentioned before, I played a lot of Arena back in 2014 and 2015, and I pretty much mained Artemis and Nemesis. They were my first two 10 Masteries gods, pretty much just from Arena. King Led asks, how do you want to be buried? Do I need to be worried, bro? Also, this is how I want to be buried. Orange Diddle asks, what made you pick Smite over games like LoL and other big well-known games? So the answer to that's pretty simple. I have more fun playing Smite. Like, I don't play games based on their popularity, or yeah, I would just be playing League of Legends and Fortnite and all the popular games. I play games that I think are fun, and I think Smite is more fun than League of Legends and Fortnite. Elite Fusion asks, what is your least favourite god to see? So my least favourite god to see would probably be Arachne, maybe followed up by Aphrodite, which I really don't like either. Joseph asks, what are your PC specs? So I'm currently rocking an i7-8700K overclocked and an RTX 2060. I'll put my full PC specs list on screen for you, but obviously the GPU and the CPU are the most important parts. Loki Just Asher asks, what are your 5 least favourite Smite abilities? So my 5 least favourite abilities are probably Arachne passive, Arachne's 1, Arachne's 2, Arachne's 3, and probably Arachne's ultimate. I think that's about right. Captain Sexy again asks, do you think Smite is underrated compared to other MOBAs? I think in some areas it's definitely underrated. Like, I think the core gameplay of Smite is much better than a lot of the other MOBAs, but League of Legends has the character design points over Smite for sure. I think the League of Legends characters are a lot more interesting than Smite characters overall. Like, there are ups and downs compared to different MOBAs, and there's reasons other ones are popular compared to Smite, but Smite definitely does have some advantages on other MOBAs for sure. Fenrir Main from the comments asks, what's your most annoying CC? So that's pretty tough because CC is pretty damn annoying in Smite. I think I'd have to go with cripples though. Not necessarily because cripples themselves are particularly annoying, but because the actual cripples that exist in the game, like Ares Chains and RTO2, are just really annoying. Jex asks, when do you think you can find time to have another Twitch stream? So right now it's basically impossible for me to stream. My home internet just sucks too badly for me to actually be able to stream, and obviously I'm at home right now with the whole crisis going on. So in terms of when I'll be able to stream next, that'll be when I go back to university, probably in like September or October, assuming this whole thing subsides and I can actually get better internet. It's not a matter of if I want to stream, it's a matter of that I physically can't on my home internet. The last time I tried to stream, it was like 240p and it was just horrible. Vitu asks, if you could rework one god in Smite, who would it be and why? So I've actually made a list before of 5 gods that I do want to see reworked. I think Arachne would probably be at the top of my list for a rework. Mostly because I think so much more can be done with the whole like spidery lore aspect of her that isn't really explored, and a lot of her abilities right now just feel really frustrating. Ciara asks, what is your favourite off-roll pick for every class, for example Soul and Ratatoska? So I don't know whether you could call Ula an off-meta pick for mid, but if that counts then I would probably go with Ula mid, otherwise I would probably go with some kind of assassin mid like Rat. Favourite off-meta solo laner would probably be Anher or Neath. You can build them tanky with like Berserker Shield into Breastplate of Valor kind of builds, and they're actually quite fun in solo. Favourite off-meta jungler is definitely Anubis. I love Anubis jungle. It's not very good, but when it works, it's hilarious. Favourite off-meta support, I'm going to assume that stuff like Circuit doesn't really count because she's actually fairly meta. So I'd probably go with something like Hell. I think healer supports are pretty interesting. And then favourite off-meta ADC has to be Erlang Shen. I've played Erlang ADC a few times and it's actually so much fun when you can get it to work. King Yosh asks, will you ever get the 2012 Convention Artemis skin, and can I have it if you do? So this is a long-standing meme within my friendship group. I've been playing Smite since 2014, and as I said, I was an Arena Artemis main back then, and I was trying to get every Artemis skin in the game. And for the longest time, I had every single Artemis skin except the 2012 Convention Artemis skin. So I bought up all the Divine chests and things like that where you can potentially get the Convention skins, and I got every single other Convention skin except that one. And I still don't have it to this day, so I'm still searching for that. I buy every single Divine chest whenever there's a World Championship so I can try and get it, and I still don't have it. Even though I really don't play Artemis anymore, it's just for the meme at this point. I even went so far as to buy a display, which is like a metal poster that has Convention Artemis on it. It looks really nice, but I still don't have the skin in game. Cornsect asks, will you start playing other games other than Smite on the channel? Also, what's your type/genre of games? So in general, I really like RPG games like I've said before, and in terms of playing other games on the channel, I'll definitely play some other stuff if that's something you guys would want to see. Like obviously most of my fans are here for Smite, but if there'd be decent interest in any other kind of games, I was considering maybe playing like some Pokemon Let's Plays, maybe randomized or something like that, or just some general stuff relating to RPG games because they're pretty interesting to me. Vader Rises asks, what type of teammates do you hate the most, excluding trolls? So I don't know if Loki mains count as trolls, but Loki mains. 420 Frogmaster asks, if you ever had to drop Smite for whatever reason, what game would you cover in its place? So I don't really know about this one, because Smite has kind of been the main game I've covered on my channel forever, and it's basically the reason I started my channel. I don't really have the same kind of interest with any game where I think I could like cover it like consistently as much as I do with Smite. I don't know, maybe Hearthstone, because I play a lot of Hearthstone, or I'd probably just become some kind of variety YouTuber, kind of like Mythimu does now, where he just kind of plays what he wants and makes edits about it. I'd probably do something like that if Smite just like died out of nowhere. Caveman4545 asks, why don't people use the mana or health chalice? I feel like spending more money on potions is just not as good overall. So people do use the health chalice, mostly in solo lane and sometimes in support. But in general, it's mostly because of starting builds. You start with 1500 gold and most people will buy a blessing and then a tier 1 item or straight up a tier 2 item, and that doesn't leave you with 300 gold to be able to buy a chalice in most roles. And in terms of the mana chalices just really aren't worth it except on healers. Like Hell solo buys mana chalice a lot, and sometimes Aphrodite solo can buy mana chalice because you can effectively convert your mana into health. But in general, people prioritize health sustain a lot more than they prioritize mana sustain. That's why mana chalice isn't really worth it. Airline asks, do you watch any anime? Weebs out. Kitty asks, how old were you when you first started playing Smite? So as I said, I started playing Smite in early 2014. It's now 2020, so that would be 6 years ago. I'm 21 now, so I guess I was 15 when I started playing Smite. Shadowfall asks, first/most satisfying pentakill, what god and what season? So I can't actually remember exactly when it happened, but my most satisfying pentakill would definitely be the Hunbat's level 5 pentakill that I got in Assault. It was essentially in that first fight that you have in Assault where everyone meets in lane and the first wave comes in. I got a pentakill in that first fight, which was really satisfying. I can't remember what season that was, but I think it was like around season 2 or 3 maybe. And in terms of my first pentakill, I can't remember to be honest, but it was probably with Nemesis or Artemis in Arena. Asperger King asks, favourite skin and least favourite skin? So my favourite skin would definitely be Archon Thanatos if we're counting tier 5 skins. I think it's by far the best of the tier 5 skins. And in terms of my least favourite skin, I don't really have a single least favourite skin, but I really don't like all the DJ skins. They're just really annoying, they have annoying voice packs and I just kind of despise them. Red asks, who is your go-to/solo carry god which you feel you'll always do well on? So those are kind of two separate things. My favourite solo carry god is Callie because obviously she can just carry games on her own if you're good enough with her. But my go-to god which I feel like I'll always do well on is definitely Bellona. I've played her so much and I'm so consistent on her that I feel like I'll always do well when I play Bellona. Sugarcube asks, what was the most disgustingly broken god release? Baron, Bellona or Guan Yu? So if my choices are only between those two, it would still be Guan Yu anyway. Guan Yu was by far the most broken god release of all time. Honestly, I don't know why you've lumped Baron with Bellona and Guan Yu here. Baron wasn't even close to on a similar level as Bellona and Guan Yu. They were way above the rest. Burning Noodles asks, how often do you suffer from existential dread? How often are there Lokis in my game? Probably about as often as that. Larger Moon asks, favourite ability in Smite, basic or ultimate? So my favourite Smite ability has to be Geb Shield. It's just really fucking cool that it can like cleanse CC and give your teammates shields. Like it's a really quintessential support ability that really kind of defines his playstyle. Morph asks, what made you start YouTube and what got you into Smite? So as I mentioned before, I started YouTube kind of just as something to do to like test my editing skills and like show my friends these montages that I'd made. My first video ever was like a RAR snipe montage where I was doing 360 RAR snipes and things like that, so it really wasn't like a serious thing when I initially started, it just kind of grew into a serious thing. And what got me into Smite? My friends actually got me into Smite. A couple of my friends were playing it for like a few weeks and then they introduced it to me and I pretty much just got hooked on it. Defile asks, what games besides Smite would you recommend? So if I had to recommend a single game to anyone, it would definitely be Divinity Original Sin 2. If you haven't played that game and you like RPG style games, definitely give it a try. The storytelling and decisions in that game are just so amazing, and the gameplay, while it is turn-based combat, so if you don't like that, maybe don't try it, but if you can tolerate or you like turn-based combat, it's definitely a game worth playing. Jex asks, what is your favourite meme build? So my favourite meme build is probably Crit Hercules. There's a lot that I kind of like to go for, but Crit Hercules is probably the chief among them. Ddel asks, if there was a 6th role in Smite, what do you think it would be? So if we're talking about Conquest here in terms of just like not changing anything else and adding a 6th person onto every team, There will probably be either a second jungler where they sort of take halves of the map, or it will be like a duo lane and solo lane style thing. So you have 2 duo lanes, mid lane, and then a jungler. Or you would have duo lane, mid lane, solo lane, and 2 junglers. Fading Star asks, what makes your internet suck so hard? So I've mentioned this a bit before when I was talking about live streaming, and the reactions pretty much show this one perfectly. I live out in the middle of the countryside in the UK, and we live way miles away from like anywhere that can get decent internet, so it just sucks. There's not much we can do about it. Bengas020 asks, was there any point in the game that you missed that you wish you had been there to see? So this is probably a cop-out that everyone would say, but I'd definitely have loved to have been around to see release Guan Yu. I've done a lot of research on it and I've seen videos of it, but to be able to play at that time and actually just stomp people with release Guan Yu would have been so much fun, I think. D-Del again asks, favourite video that you've created? So in terms of the video that I'm like most proud of and I think is my best video, I think the Season 7 Conquest guide that I made a little while back is actually one of my favourite videos in terms of like, I really like the editing style that I went for and it's really clear with all the information it gives and things like that. And that video of course did really well. I think it has like 80,000 views total now and it'll still be gaining views for the rest of the season, I imagine. But there's 2 videos on my channel that are actually really underrated that didn't get too many views. I think they're both around 20 or 30k or something, which is pretty good, but compared to some of my other videos that have reached over 100k, they didn't do insanely well. But they're the penetration guide, which I worked really hard on. It's really concise. There's like very few mistakes, which sometimes I do have a couple of mistakes in my videos, but I think in that video there's pretty much no mistakes and I'm really proud of it. And then also my video discussing removing game modes in Smite, I use a lot of data in that video and I think it's like quite clear what I'm trying to talk about and it's a really interesting video, I think. It sparked a really interesting discussion in the comment section as well about which videos should be removed, and I included the community polls and things like that, and I think it's a very well done video. The Morrigan again asks, after Loki, what god do you hope will see a remodel or a kit redesign? So in terms of kit redesign, I've said already that I'd like Arachne to see a kit redesign. In terms of just a remodel where you don't change their kit, I would go with either Cupid or Sobek. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Cupid looks really stupid and he could definitely deserve a remodel. And also Sobek. Like, Sobek doesn't look that bad, but he's a very old god that hasn't really seen any visual upgrades in a long time, and I think he could look like a lot cooler in terms of like overall lore and stuff with like the modern technology that they have for designing god models. Midnight asks, why is Loki not top tier yet? So I'm not sure if they're going to continue this trend with Loki after his rework, but Hi-Rez currently have a policy where if Loki ever gets over a 50% overall win rate, they just absolutely hit him with the nerf bat and make sure he doesn't like get ever very popular. Like, he's already a very popular god, and if he has over a 50% win rate and is in like every game, it makes the game incredibly unfun. So they basically have a policy to immediately nerf him if he ever gets over a 50% overall win rate. I'm not sure if they're going to continue that after the rework because he might be a bit more of a healthy god, but they probably will, to be honest, just because everyone hates Loki. And finally, JP Central asks, how often do you play Smite? Do you play with friends for fun or play competitively and try to win? So I definitely play Smite probably a couple of hours a day on average, maybe 3 hours, it kind of depends. Some days I'll play like 6 or 7 hours of Smite, especially if I'm on the ranked grind, and some days I won't play it at all. But in general, it probably averages out to about 2 or 3 hours a day. And in terms of if I play with friends for fun or play competitively, I definitely do both of those things. Sometimes if I'm on the grind in ranked or I get a really competitive spur in casuals, I can definitely play really competitively and play to win, but I also do play with friends just for fun and stuff or with viewers. So that's it for the questions. If your question wasn't answered, then I'm sorry. There was only so many I could do without repeating myself, since a lot of the questions are very similar or outright the same as other ones that I'd already picked to answer for the Q&A. Once again, a huge thank you for 50,000 subscribers, and here's to the next 50,000. Catch you guys later. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.